Hello, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. Today we are discussing the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Minute Repeater Boutique Edition. This watch in platinum was launched in 2008 as an update, a somewhat more youthful and vivacious update to the very formal 2005 Master Minute Repeater Antoine LeCoultre. That one was a bit frumpy. This one is a bit more vigorous and energetic with the power of a black dial and lacquer and a platinum 950 case, which is 44 millimeters in diameter, 15.4 millimeters thick, 53 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, and it has a broad and proportional 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see my longtime dream watch is a challenge on a wrist of my size, which is probably why this watch is currently not permanently residing on my forearm. I could pull it off, but not necessarily with conviction. I believe a 17 centimeter circumference wrist or larger is necessary to wear this watch with a straight face. That said, your face will be in a perpetual state of smiling. The watch feels its price. The platinum case, massive and awe-inspiring, and you take a look at the strap and it's one of JLC's best. Their straps can be hit and miss, but this one is one of their finest. You can see there's a lot of leather. It's bolstered to add some volume. The scales are large rectangular alligator, and you can see that they're also particularly symmetrical scales, which indicates this is one of the most expensive cuts. It's a matte finish. You can see it has a sheer cut side and a monotone stitch, and then on the bottom you'll appreciate it as a brand new JLC factory strap. It's matched with a white gold clasp. Some folks ask me about this. It's because white gold is the hardest gold, and it is harder than platinum by a long shot. So when JLC went to the double deployant clasp in 2006, they decreed that the mechanical components, that is folding members, would all be white gold, which is the hardest gold and a lot more resilient against deformation and fracturing than platinum. So this is here in gold to keep your watch on your wrist. Now you can see it's thoughtfully designed. The underside of the chassis is actually curved to match the underside of your wrist. The case will be familiar to fans of JLC from the 2000s. This basic shape was used on everything from dress watches to aggressive master compressor sports watches. And here you've got a watch that has the presence of a sports watch, but with the grace of a dress watch. You can see the repeater slide, which has been internally satinated. Everything else is in polish. You can see that the lugs themselves are actually quite thin when viewed end on, but quite sheer when viewed in profile. There's a bit of a bevel on their flanks, and you can see that the watch has a minute repeating mechanism on top of a extended power reserve base. You can actually see how much movement is atop the crown. The base movement, the tractor is on the bottom, and then the complication is on the top. Taking a quick look at the actual minute repeater slide, you can see it has a little bit of a knurling on the end to aggress against your skin, so you can more easily pull it back. The bezel is slightly inward stepped from the case band. It has a little bit of a vertical flange, and then it's perfectly conical. The crystal frames a dial that is in black lacquer. We have white gold hands, white gold dart style indices, and white gold quarter Arabic numerals. Surprisingly for a dress watch, and this watch is at heart a dress reference, but you can see it's actually quite well loomed, which takes you aback at first, but adds to the utility of this watch. More is more with the Master Minute Repeater. Now, fun fact, this movement, caliber 947, was developed by David Kondo, a famous independent watchmaker and AHCI member. Back when he worked for JLC, he also designed their sonnerie, so he has an impeccable pedigree. His godfather is Philippe Dufour, and well, that's where this watch comes from, in the tradition of Dufour by David Kondo for Jaeger-LeCoultre. Now, rotating back to the dial side, okay, we have a skeletonized dial that shows you a number of different features of the repeater. We have the strike barrel visible between 9 and 6. We have the hammers visible between 3 and 6. We have the rack and snail for reading the time up at 12 o'clock. And then we have this little musical symbology at the bottom. That's actually where the gongs are welded to the sapphire. So in order to get outstanding tone, sustain, and resonance from a platinum case, which tends to deaden a repeater, here JLC welded the gong to the sapphire, which is not a dense material. And the more diffuse a material, the better it carries sound. Titanium, steel, sapphire. So that's why this watch has a wonderful chime. And let's explore that chime now. You'll note that the hands are alpha style. They're half frosted for better contrast against the lacquered dial base. We'll talk about the subsidiary complications in a moment, but let's talk about the repeater. If you want to impress with your repeater, you want to set it to 1259. Let me see how well I did this. I might have come up just short. Okay, let's listen. Now you can see there's also a governor, a centrifugal governor, hidden right alongside the strike barrel. Take a look at the strike barrel. You can see it's been skeletonized, and each spoke, if you will, of the barrel is actually the horizontally opposed JL logo. You can compare side to side. You'll also note that the strikers feature beveling on their sides, satination on their top, and then the levers themselves have been micro-perlaged or engine turned. It is a very special movement. We have a power reserve indicator, 15 days. Then we have a torque meter assembly. This tells you your power reserve. This tells you more or less the health of the watch. And when the watch is fully wound or approaching fully wound, the torque meter should read pretty close to the maximum reading. And you can see it's getting up there right now, so the watch is in good shape. Again, it's important to know how much torque is coming off the mainspring, because that will let you know the health of the lubricants in the barrels and the train. Now you can see everything on the dial side is masterfully finished, good as anything in the world. We have little locating pins that have been black polished on their top. We have satination and beveling on the components. The components of the movement are made of German silver or nickel copper zinc alloy, but then they've been ruthenium coated to give them a darker, more industrial look. You can see fire blued screws that have been heated in a kiln. On the reverse side, you can see that the watch is noted as a special edition, and this edition came out in 2008. It was available exclusively at factory boutiques. The best guess, and I've pooled the resources of a number of experts to reach this conclusion, is that JLC made somewhere between 12 and 3 dozen of these, and I wouldn't be shocked if the true number is towards the lower end of the scale. Now, taking a look at the movement, you can see it has a very traditional pocket watch inspired 3/4 style bridge, because this movement is designed to be evocative of pocket watches. That's why it uses that nickel copper zinc alloy. That's why it has the barrel arbors for the barrels set in screw fixed chaton, as we would have seen in the pocket watch era. Now we have mirrored anglage on the edge of every bridge. You can see that we have black polish on each chaton. You could see that we have a full balance bridge that's free sprung for durability, which is a wonderful refinement that you might not expect to have this level of shock resistance on a minute repeater. We also have a lovely abrasive wheel laid Côte de Soleil, which radiates out from an imaginary center point atop the balance. JLC movements priced below $100,000 tend not to be very well finished. They tend to be technically accomplished, but perfunctory in their execution. Here you get both aesthetics and engineering. This was a cost-no-object watch when it first launched. You can also appreciate that there's engine turning on the base plate, satination on the wheels, and not only is this a free-sprung balance on a full balance bridge, but it uses an overcoil hairspring so that it keeps very consistent time in any physical position on the wrist, and it beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. Also of note, and this is the most shocking fact, you will see that the watch features 50-meter water resistance, whereas traditionally, minute repeaters featured no water resistance. At JLC, you get 50 meters. The quality of this movement practically behooves you to buy a fine loop so you can appreciate it at close range. The closer you get these richly laid Côte de Soleil, the more impressive they become, and that's true of every other part of the watch. You can see it features the JL maker's mark, as JL makes not just the movement, but also the case as well. This watch runneth over with surprises. Again, reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com if you ever have any questions about this watch.